Hello everybody, welcome to Monday Morning Must Knows. My name is Merlin Rothfeld, and here are 3 important things to pay attention to for the upcoming trading week. Now, I was torn when doing this episode because I was thinking maybe I could bring my good friend Joe Rogan on the program to talk about fear factor in these financial markets. Or maybe I go and get my good buddy Jim Morrison to come on and sing, "This is the end, my only friend, the end." Now, in all seriousness, this market is looking awesome right now. And I know some of you are probably freaking out thinking, this downside move makes me feel like Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone. It's opportunity, folks. We might have to switch our strategies from a long bias to a short bias, but bottom line is tons of opportunities last week, and I think it's going to continue going forward. Now, we'll start things off with one of the main catalysts out there, which is earnings. Oh, yes. We'll start with earnings. Last week, we had 119 companies reporting. This week, over 4 times that many reporting. We kicked things off on Monday with IBM, Halliburton, and Logitech. Tuesday brings some major names out there. Microsoft, that's right, Mr. Softy, one of the biggest influencers in the financial markets and a member of all 3 indexes, the NASDAQ, the S&P, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average. You have General Electric, Verizon, Johnson & Johnson, Lockheed Martin, 3M, and American Express. You have literally every market sector except biotechs and drugs. Of course, you Johnson & Johnson, I guess you call it biotechs, represented on Tuesday. Wednesday, even more big names. AT&T, Intel, who's also a member of the S&P, the NASDAQ, and the Dow. You also have Boeing. The most volatile trade of the week will probably be Tesla, as that thing bounces all over the place with their earnings. Lam Research, Abbott Labs, Xilinx. Thursday keeps it going with financials. You got Visa, MasterCard, Altria, McDonald's, Valero, Skyworks, U.S. Steel, and Friday, we're not done. We've got more. We start things off with Caterpillar, Chevron, Phillips 66, and Colgate. That's right, got to have a consumer staple in there as well. Now, we are going to shift a little bit here and go from the earnings, which of course are major market movers, and if any of those are in your portfolio, please be careful, protect yourselves, because earnings season has been incredibly volatile. I believe it's part of the catalyst as to why we're seeing these markets sell off as we speak. Now, interest rates from central banks as well as inflation have been major topics on this program and in the mainstream media for quite some time. We will continue that discussion right now because you have the Bank of Canada coming out with a rate announcement on Wednesday. And Wednesday is a major day, regardless whether you trade futures, whether you trade Forex, or individual equities. You can see here the rate statement for the Bank of Canada is expected to come out at the same, right around 25 basis points with no real surprises. That will happen at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday. Now, this sets the stage for something maybe even more significant, right? Rate announcements are going on all over the world. We heard some countries are starting to raise. The U.S. is talking about raising here, most likely in March. So other countries are feeling that pressure, and we'll see if the talk track changes for Canada. Now, we're going to go just a little bit later on in that day here in the U.S. as the U.S. comes out with their announcements for rates. We have a rate statement coming out at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, we're going to expect the announcement to stay right where it's at under 25 basis points. The real fireworks will happen a little bit after that, 30 minutes after that announcement, the press conference where Jerome Powell will field a whole bunch of questions. That's Wednesday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that is probably more important than the rate announcement. At this juncture, most people feel that March will be that moment where they raise. Now, Jerome Powell will be fielding all sorts of questions, and we can get a better idea as to what they're thinking during that announcement, and that's normally when we get big swings in the market, especially if Jerome Powell leaks a little something that he should not have. Now, we're not done because the Fed is going to focus a lot of their attention in that discussion on inflation. And last week, we had PPI and CPI numbers that were both rather disappointing and I think precipitated some fear in the marketplace. But the main reading that the central bankers are using to indicate to them what inflation looks like is called the PCE Price Index. Here you can see a chart of that reading going all the way back into 2005. Now, what I want you to notice, just focus on this red line that's flying up out of the bottom of the screen. Going all the way back into 2005, it's never been above that red line. But wait a minute, COVID comes along and says, here, hold my beer, and all of a sudden, boom, we have been consistently above that red line. More importantly, if we look at that hard right edge, you can see that very last tall blue bar that measures out at 0.5%, or 0.5 on the right side. That blue represents the actual number, and the little gold dash just below that represents the expectation, which means that we are expecting inflation to be high, and all of a sudden, the real number comes out much higher. Now, if central bankers, mainly the Fed, is looking at this number for the U.S. markets as an inflationary indicator, if we do exceed those numbers yet again, this could put a lot more pressure on the Fed to raise rates in March. The good news for anybody who's thinking that we might see a rate increase on Wednesday is that this announcement happens Friday. Fed announcements on Wednesday. So this piece, which is like a major component for their decision process, will happen 2 days after the announcement. So I don't think you need to worry about a rate hike on Wednesday, but this could be a guideline for what happens in our March meeting. That, my friends, is your Monday Morning Must-Knows. We'll see you next time.